I'm sure it's going to play an advert now. Are we live?
Now we seem to be live, but are we? Does anybody know if we are live?
It's playing an ad, I'm sure it's live.
Right, we should carry on talking then,
Yes.
because it will start after that. Hello everybody, it's wonderful to be here with you. We are talking from what is now my office, also the second bedroom, and if we are ever blessed with children, it'll be the bedroom of our offspring. That is not an eventuality that's about to happen anytime soon. We don't really know how this particular live is going to work. It is obviously just a very brief chat before the premiere, world premiere of episode 1 of our sojourn in Chobe National Park and surrounds during the wet season. As you can see, my wife is also live.
It's very scary. I don't think I've ever been live.
Is this your first live?
I'm alive.
She's making her world premiere, everyone. Look how lovely she looks. She got dressed up for the occasion in her special heart shirt. There it is. Fantastic. Okay, we have a few questions already. We'll quickly get through them before we explain how the thing will work. And let's explain how
We'll
it'll
go
work
through
first.
how Chobe 4x4.
Basically, what's going to happen is that we'll do this. We'll end the stream sort of 2 minutes before 7 o'clock, at which point you will be automatically transferred over to the premiere of episode 1.
YouTube does recommend that you refresh though, and then it'll send you over in case you get stuck on the page.
So probably refresh after this. Now, we went into Botswana with Chobe 4x4, a new company, magnificent company based in the, well, what should we call it, bustling metropolis of Kasane up in northeastern Botswana, right on the Zimbabwean border, quite close to Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe. And we just had the most wonderful time with Chobe 4x4. They were wonderful to us the whole time. Barry, who owns Chobe 4x4, came with us for some of the trip, and then we met him up and took him up on a lot of hospitality in Kasane, and we're just very grateful for the opportunity to have done the trip with him and with Chobe 4x4. So if you're ever looking to go on a 4x4 adventure in Botswana or the surrounding countries, Barry's your man at Chobe 4x4.
And this trip was supposed to happen in October.
Yes. This trip was supposed to happen in October, then COVID, then it was supposed to happen in November, then COVID, then it was supposed to happen in December, then COVID. And eventually we found a gap in January and we just went. Now, it's not really considered the ideal time to go overlanding in Botswana at that time and in those areas, especially as they'd had, I think, a 20-year high rainfall. And so it wasn't that surprising when there were virtually no other people at all in the vicinity of where we were camping. In fact, when we did see anybody, we felt quite sort of put out that we had to share northern Botswana with anyone at all. I think the most interesting characters we met, will they meet the Russians?
Yeah, we won't speak about the Russians
talk about
yet.
the Russians, but you'll meet them in episode probably 5, I guess. Episode 5, yes, and then there were some Germans who I don't think you will meet.
No.
They were very nice people.
Oh, we did speak about them.
We did speak about them, but they were lovely people. But they were the only people of note that we came across, other than the superb Botswana National Parks staff, who were to a lady and to a man friendly, helpful, and just wonderful. So we had the most incredible time up there in northern Botswana.
I'm just replying to people.
Would you like me to answer?
Yes, let's do a question.
Some questions?
Okay.
Yes.
A little bit blind. Okay, Coast-Sider
Totally
said,
blind.
is there a particular maintenance routine you perform on your camping gear vehicles? And if any tools, what tools do we pack?
Right. Cosine, my knowledge of the internal combustion engine is, well, I'm going to say limited. I'm one of these people who opens the engine up when the car breaks down for no reason other than I know that that's the thing to do. What goes on under the hood is an utter mystery to me. We drove Toyota Land Cruisers, which are incredibly reliable, and Barry of Chobe 4x4 definitely has an extreme and very, thorough maintenance program for all the vehicles. We didn't have to do anything. We had a satellite phone. If we did break down, we probably would have called him. But really, my knowledge of the internal workings of the combustion engine are absolutely zero. So really, I wouldn't have been able to fix the car if it had broken down. But it really didn't even hint at breaking down.
And I think if you go with Chobe 4x4, they give you a day.
Yes.
They take you to. Did you talk about that already?
No, I didn't. But they will give you a day of orientation, show you how the vehicle works. I mean, it helped a lot that I knew how to drive a 4x4 because obviously that's what I've been doing for, well, nigh on 2 decades now. And some of the conditions were pretty hairy, but nothing extreme. I think you could, I mean, unless you were particularly stupid, it's quite difficult to get that vehicle stuck. And that part of Botswana where we were driving, we were very careful about not going on to places like Makgadikgadi.
And we weren't allowed to go to Moremi, sadly.
We weren't allowed to go to Moremi, like some others who you'll meet during the course of the series. And so, we avoided the really tricky areas, and, there's support satellite phone call away. And normally, if you go in the busy season, there'll be other travellers as well who'll be able to help you be slightly more clued up than I am. So, the tools you take are a wheel spanner, a jack, and that's about it, really. And a few bits and pieces to fix camera equipment.
Our beard says or asks, does Kirsty do the video sound effects editing for these most excellent videos?
Yes, Kirsty does all the editing, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm an extremely slow editor. I'm not a particularly creative editor, and so, thank you. And so I'm very grateful that my good wife does all of that.
But you do the sound.
And I mix the sound, which is a tricky process without a studio, but it is, I think we're getting better at it. And I have a look at the color as well from time to time. But most of it's the actual nuts and bolts of editing, picking the music, the creative parts that you'd notice are the things that Kirsten does, yes.
Okay, and Waterback, have you read or used the Andrew St. Pierre White Overlanding Off-Roading books?
No. They're whaty? Anderson.
Andrew. This one there.
That's too close for me. The...
Andrew St. Pierre White Overlanding. No, you haven't.
Andrew St. Pierre Whiteland Overlanding book things. No, I haven't heard of them.
We probably should read them.
We probably should read them, although it would probably make for a slightly less entertaining show. I think half the joy of these shows is how, well, incompetent we are at overlanding and camping, generally.
And
Cheers.
Patty wants to know, have we ever been to Botswana before?
Paddy, I've been to Botswana before. We both went to Botswana on honeymoon through the Kalahari, because there's a transfrontier park, so we went into that part of it. I've been to the Delta a few times, and this was my first time though to Savuti and to Chobe and to Ngaipan, and we attempted parts of Makgadikgadi, which you'll hear about and see that a few weeks from now.
Gary wants to know, what advice would you give to someone planning a self-drive safari for the first time? Gary.
Advice to somebody planning a self-drive safari for the first time. It depends on your experience, really. Let's say you've never been to Africa before, and there are a lot of travelers that come into exactly the area we were from overseas, having never done it before, and they're absolutely fine. I would say, firstly, book with a reputable operator like Chobe 4x4, because you'll get a great vehicle, you'll get great support, and you'll also get instruction on what to do. Whereas some others who we met on the way were basically handed the keys at the airport and said and told, good luck. Weren't told where not to go, weren't told where they might get stuck or where they might never emerge from again. And I think there were some near misses in this particular period of high rainfall. So, I think your best bet is to just get hold of a reputable operator like Chobe 4x4. They'll tell you everything you need to know. It is helpful to have a knowledge of the area. You can read a lot about it. You can look at maps. You can look at Google Earth. But I've got to tell you, until you're actually on the ground, that's where the learning happens. So as long as you've got a reliable map, reliable GPS, which you'll get with a reputable operator, yeah, that's what you need. You need to be, I would say you need a relatively decent level of health. You don't want to be unhealthy in doing it, because it can be quite physical. You don't have to be very fit, but you need to be able to climb up and down onto the top of the roof of the car and down and change the wheel if you have to. You need to be able to put fuel in the car if you need to, and you might need to be able to semi-manhandle the car if things get tough and you get stuck. There was no winch on the vehicle we used, and the operators are often very careful about putting winches on these cars because, I mean, vehicles will often end up in trees because people don't know how to use them. So yeah, I would just say you need a relative level of health. You want to be in pretty good physical nick. You don't have to be fit, but you don't want to be suffering from anything dire when you go into one of these things.
Or you go with someone who does it all and you just sit back.
That's also a good idea. It is a good idea to go with someone else in convoy. I don't mean hand all the physical stuff to somebody else on the same vehicle as you. But it's always nice to go in a little convoy as well, because then if you do get stuck, it's just not quite so. You always drive slightly nervously because there's always a chance you're going to get stuck, and then what? So.
Leopard Lover wants to know, will there be an epic toilet review?
There will be a few toilet reviews, but I'm afraid, unfortunately, for those who enjoy the toilet reviews, in general, the Botswana parks have immaculate facilities, and there was no one there. So,
and we thought we were going to places where it was a shovel and
there were very few places. In fact,
roll.
there was nowhere where we didn't have an ablution facility of some description, in the middle of absolutely nowhere. So you can find places like that, but I think the route that we took was a relatively well driven and well used camping route, and so everybody's kind of set up for it.
And
so not quite like our honeymoon.
On the toilet subject, Yvette wanted to know any tips for midnight toilet trips from a roof tent. It's easy for boys.
This is one of these things where you really are lucky if you're a man, because, well, I mean, if you're a woman, you've got to climb down, so you need a powerful torch, and
I didn't go once in the middle of the night.
Or a very strong bladder. I got up a couple of times, and I just I didn't climb out, shall we say. Let's just leave it there.
But some of the new overlanding vehicles have a toilet at the bottom, so you don't actually leave the vehicle.
They do have a loo at the bottom. The problem is, though, if you they can be pretty smelly affairs, and so you need to empty them then, and so it really is better to go outside if you can. But yes, some of the newer ones definitely do have internal loos. I personally don't recommend their use.
Jenna said, when do you think we'll go back to Chobe? Hopefully next week.
Yeah, we'd love to go next week. I think we'll probably try next week. I think we both agree that the next big trip we do, we want to do in the dry season, because our honeymoon was unseasonably wet, and this last trip was unseasonably wet. It's also the wrong time of year to travel to where we went. And so we'd really like to go during the dry season, when you do get those hordes of animals coming down to the last remaining water. The vegetation is obviously much less dense than it was when we went now. Parts of Savuti were just totally inaccessible because the grass was yay high and the water was yay deep. So, our next trip will hopefully be in the dry season. We're hoping to go to Mana Pools, with any luck, sometime towards the end of this year.
A few people are asking what our favourite experience was there, but I don't know if I want to give anything away.
Yeah.
You've got to watch the series.
We'll watch the series, and we'll tell you as the weeks go by, I think.
Cool. Well, we've got 30 seconds to go. Thank you, everyone, for the lovely messages.
Everybody.
And lots of people saying happy anniversary.
Thank you.
What did we do?
What did we do for our anniversary? I cooked dinner. I made a braai, a barbecue of some steak, and I made a salad and some potato chips.
It was very good. It was better than usual cooking.
Better than the restaurants that we go to over here. Okay, that's it.
So, we've got 1 minute to go. I think we'll turn this off, and then if it doesn't send you automatically, just refresh and you'll go to the premiere.
Enjoy it, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you again for a live chat next week. Bye-bye.
You can turn it off.